Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the increasing use of soft prosecuting and jury stacking to ensure that pro-globalist guilty people go free. Now, doesn't matter whether they're climate change activists that shut the downtown area of a city with road blockades and lying in the street or gluing themselves to buildings and causing all sorts of disruption, or graffiti on public buildings, defacing public buildings, and so on. It's not just that, but it's also people destroying public property. Now, that can be statues of people that they don't like, or that they think somehow are involved in things that the globalists are unhappy about today. But there's a widespread, very widespread phenomenon at hand now where these people are treated very softly, very gently, and very easily by the courts. The same courts that will put you in prison for voting for Donald Trump, by the way, or that will say that you're a Nazi and a fascist and throw you in prison for using the wrong pronoun for some transgender person or something. It's the same sort of courts that have gone very tough on, and say in the case of England, very tough on Tommy Robinson, for example. But if you destroy public property of some a person from history, a straight white male from history that the globalists have said is open season to go get, then the courts will treat you very gently, if assuming you even get prosecuted at all. Now, just one recent example of this was the prosecution of 4 people regarding the destruction of the statue of a guy in England, in Bristol in England, called Edward Colston. For those not from England or who haven't been following this, he was a major philanthropist from hundreds of years ago, and he donated a lot of money for things like hospitals and schools and so on. And in recognition of that, he got a statue in downtown Bristol. Bristol used to be quite a large seaport in days gone by. Edward Colston owned quite a few ships, which he sublet out to other people, and those people, or some of those people, used it for transporting slaves and goods and so on from West Africa to the Americas and the Caribbean. Now, this has been dug up from, historically it's been dug up. So they've decided, some activists in a very set piece sort of situation, decided to tear down the statue, damage it, and throw it into Bristol harbour. Now, whether or not you think Colston, Edward Colston did the good things, for example, setting up hospitals and schools, or that he sublet his ships that he owned to people that subsequently used it for transporting slaves, that's where you see the right and wrong and the morals and that are another thing. Now, you can lobby your local council, you can write to your local politicians and say that you think that the statue should be replaced, or that there maybe should be mention of other things on there apart from his philanthropic undertakings. There are various ways of dealing with this, but instead a mob went along and the usual sort of rent-a-mob sort of BLM riot type idiots, and they, as I say, tore the statue down while the police stood by and did nothing. So they pulled it down, threw it in the harbour. There was allegedly, in US dollar terms, about $10,000 worth of damage, maybe more, but it was somewhere in that vicinity. Now, the police weren't going to arrest anybody. They sort of stood by, oh, well, what can we do? It's BLM, it's social justice. We're too busy arresting people for using the wrong pronouns for transgender. But we're too busy making sure that there's transgender bathrooms in the police station. We got no time to do. So the police didn't give a shit. And it's only because there was a public outcry that they quite reluctantly arrested 4 of the alleged ringleaders, or what they claim were ringleaders. if you look at the photographs of some of the primary people that were doing the damaging and the throwing in the harbour, I didn't see that lot among them. So they've obviously not picked what I would have thought would have been, more logical candidates for arrest and for trial. But anyway, they arrested 4 people. Now these people aren't upstanding citizens. One, from what I'm gleaning from what I've seen in the newspapers here or online, 2 of them live in a trailer park and look like they're mentally retarded, for goodness sakes. One is a snot-nosed little punk chick who like works as I don't know, she's got some bullshit part-time job in a drama club or something like that. So she's effectively never worked in her life. And the 2 folks living in the trailer park are supposed to be tradespeople. I think it was a carpenter, maybe one of them. But it looks like he's not spending much time doing woodwork and spending more time hanging around with folks that want to stir up trouble, and apparently is a regular attendee at BLM riots and Antifa type riots and so on. So I don't know where he finds the time to work. Maybe that's why he's living in a trailer park. So those were the people they got. Now, again, the police arrested them very reluctantly. The prosecution, the Department of Prosecutions, very reluctantly prosecuted them, and you could almost see throughout the process that there was no intention of holding these people to account or putting them in prison or fining them or giving them good behaviour bonds or anything like that. The intention was to just go through the motions. So it's going to be a kangaroo court trial, not a kangaroo court trial to convict them, but a kangaroo court trial to let them go. So it can work both ways. Now, if any of them were called Tommy Robinson, I'm sure they'd be in prison at this very minute, but they're not. So they're pro-globalist, they're pro-Antifa, they're pro-BLM, and they're doing the sort of work creating the social division and creating the social unrest that the globalists want them to. And so they're being looked after. Now, they go to the court, so that the Department of Public Prosecutions is globalist. They don't really want to prosecute these people, and they're very half-hearted and half-assed about it, in my view. Then they get a judge who's very sympathetic to them. And where do they find that judge from? Now this is the bit that gets me. They then find a jury, and now the jury's 12 people, and these folks wanted, the accused wanted a jury to hear it. Now, why would you want that? Very few people are really in support of what they did, outside their own activist circles. So they'd be lucky to find anybody that would agree with it or support it or condone it. There's a violent, angry mob has destroyed public property, and like anyone else, they should be, I believe, should be convicted for that, and they should pay, at the very least, should pay a fine and go on good behaviour bond. But somehow the Department of Public Prosecution, they just agree. Yeah, you want a jury? Yeah, no problem. Yeah, all right then. Even though it's going to be a longer case and more expensive and this sort of thing, they don't usually do that. It happens sometimes, but usually in a case with huge import, like there's going to be a long custodial sentence, things like that. But this wasn't one of those sort of cases, so I had to I went to a jury. Very strange for a case of this size, but nonetheless, that's it. Now, bear in mind, there's the government, if in effect, is prosecuting these people, and it doesn't want to. It doesn't want to prosecute them. It's only doing it to because of public opinion that these people should be prosecuted, and I believe they should have been. So the jury things agreed to, and somehow the defense and the prosecution agree on 12 jurors who unanimously declare these people innocent. Now, here's the bit. The people admitted to the crime, but they said, well, it's not really a crime because we were pursuing social justice. We're just fighting Nazis, so we're allowed to do it. So anyway, they they say, yes, you're guilty, but no, you're not really guilty because you were doing social justice things and fighting Nazis, and you're fighting racism, and wow, and I'm fighting misogyny. That statue is really of Hitler, not of some guy from the 1600s, so on and so on. So the jury unanimously, all 12, declare these people innocent, and they walk out the courtroom waving their hands as if they doubted the outcome. They didn't look relieved or chastened by the experience. Far from it. Their attitude appeared to be, we knew this would happen. We knew we'd be declared innocent, even though we'd admitted to our guilt and we'd confessed to the crime. Even that, we still knew we were going to be declared innocent. Now, how do you know that? I mean, wow. I mean, that's serious crystal ball gazing there. 12 jurors, so upright and true and just, selected, who declare these people innocent, even though they've admitted their guilt. Surely that's only an alternative universe. That's something that would come out of George Orwell's 1984 or something, isn't it? But this is the trend. Now, there are people in Australia that have created endless mayhem and disrupted peak hour traffic and graffitied this and disrupted that, and they get arrested by the police, and they're either, sometimes they're let out with like a $50 fine, but no criminal conviction recorded. Other times, the prosecution that seems to be very reluctant to prosecute them finds a judge who actually says, you're doing really good work, kids. You get out there and do some more disrupting and some more defacing of public property. Wow, climate change is just so important. And you just get out there and you do a bit more. And I've got to give you like a $50 fine here, but if it was my way, I wouldn't give you that. So go for it, kiddies. Go for it, you fucking morons, and do some more disrupting. And this is how increasingly, if you're on the pro-globalist side of things, doing what the globalists want you to do, race, gender, climate change, then you're doing the bidding of the gods, and you're going to be let free, and you won't be convicted, you won't be prosecuted, and they will find judges that will commend you and applaud you. They'll find prosecutors that won't even give a shit, won't even try, and they'll find jurors that will declare you innocent. Now in Bristol, which is a pretty conservative place. In Bristol, how do you find 12 jurors to find people innocent when those same people have already admitted their guilt? when the guilt and the act and everything's all on film, it's not like there's debate or shortage of witnesses or something. It's all there. And still, so they purposefully picked 12 jurors that would declare them innocent. And this is a conspiracy between the prosecution, in my opinion, a conspiracy between the prosecution and the defense. And they purposefully picked 12 jurors they could rely on to declare these people, these guilty people, innocent. And that's where we're at today in terms of the standard of Western jurisprudence. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.